Salutations, crustaceans. I'm Lobster, and today we are going to be discussing setups. Now, we've all been there. Our number one base, our prized possession, just isn't playing as well as it used to. The licks that used to come real easy and used to play with ease are now becoming a bit challenging. Maybe playing on the lower frets is becoming a buzzy mess, or maybe playing on the upper frets is becoming a bit of a challenge. Whatever your base ailment may be, the number one answer that you usually get when expressing your setup woes on the internet is, take it to a luthier. Take it to a luthier. A luthier. You know what? Luthiers build instruments and don't have time to set up your instrument most of the time. And finding one is going to be a bit challenging for some people who may not have a master instrument builder near them. I think what they mean to say most of the time is take it to a guitar tech, somebody who can do a basic setup if you're not comfortable doing it for yourself. However, today we are going to talk about doing it yourself, setting up your bass and doing it quickly and easily. Now, setups are not that daunting of a task, especially if you don't need to scrub down your fingerboard and frets, and you don't need to refret or fret level your instrument. If you're looking to just do a basic setup after the seasons start to shift and your bass may need a little bit of an adjustment, this is the video for you, and we're going to go over a quick and easy way to set up your bass. Now keep in mind, I am not liable for any damage you may cause by not following my directions, but this is pretty straightforward. The first item we're going to need is this, a Phillips head screwdriver. Just your basic screwdriver. Next, Allen wrenches. These Allen wrenches are going to be for your truss rod and for your bridge. Now make sure you have the appropriate size items. Some truss rods don't need an Allen wrench and instead use a wheel mechanism. For that, just use the appropriate tool that came with the instrument. So let's start off with the most basic thing here. I have my G&L L1000, rest in peace G&L, and this bass needs a little bit of a setup. So the first thing we're going to start with, we're going to turn the bass over, tighten our neck screws. There we go. I like to do it in a diagonal pattern versus going in a circle, just to make sure that the pressure is applied evenly. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I do nonetheless. And then for a neck-through instrument, we can tighten our neck attachment by turning our bass over and just jamming our screwdriver straight into the bass. Now that we've tightened our neck, we can go ahead and put our screwdriver away. Now, next thing we want to do is look at the truss rod or any sort of neck bow that we might have. Generally, if you're experiencing buzz in the middle of the neck, that means you probably have a backwards bow. Whereas if you're experiencing high action in the middle of the neck here, you're probably experiencing a forward bow. Now you're probably wondering, how do we check if our instrument's neck is bowed, and in which direction? There is an easy way to check, and it doesn't require any tools whatsoever. You're going to take your index finger and you're going to fret the first fret of any string. I usually do the E string, and then I usually go through all the strings, and that way you can see if there's a twist in the neck. But we're going to fret the first fret with our index finger of our left hand, assuming that it's a right-handed instrument, and we're going to take our thumb, and on the same string that we're fretting, we're going to fret our last fret. And then with our index finger or middle finger or whatever can reach, you're going to poke around the 12th fret, and you're going to see how much play you have. Your goal is to try to make the string as close to the fret as possible without actually touching the fret. If the string is already bottoming out on the fret, that means you have a backwards bow. Whereas if there's a good distance between the fret and the string, you probably have a forward bow. In this case, I have a forward bow on my G&L L1000, and that's something that we can remedy easily by tightening the truss rod. If you have a back bow, you want to loosen the truss rod, whereas if you have a forward bow, you want to tighten the truss rod to straighten it out. Now, basses generally have different truss rod adjustment mechanisms in different places. Most basses will have them up here on the headstock. Some will have a little plate covering it, where others, like this bass, simply have it uncovered. Other basses have the truss rod adjustment at the heel of the neck. Hi puppy, how are you? Are you going to help set up the bass? Music Man is notorious for using a truss rod wheel at the heel of the neck, where Sire uses a regular Allen key. When adjusting your truss rod, it's always best to loosen the strings before you make any adjustments. That is usually best practice. You can get away with leaving your strings with full tension, however you do risk breaking the truss rod or stripping your truss rod nut. So both are not good things, so let's loosen our strings. It's also good to loosen the strings because you can get the strings out of the way if your truss rod adjustment is at the headstock, which it is for this G&L. So we're gonna move our strings and then we're gonna go ahead and adjust our truss rod. We're gonna tighten it about a half a turn. And now with the adjustment made, we're just gonna tighten our strings back up again and see how it plays. And with our truss rod adjustment, I can confirm how much relief is in the neck by using the same trick that I just showed you. I'm going to fret the first fret of our A string as well as the last fret with my thumb, and then I'm just going to poke over here, and it looks like the string is pretty close to the fret, just where I want it. That means that the neck is relatively straight. Now the final step, assuming that you don't need to adjust the intonation and you just use the same gauge of strings that you've always been using, is to adjust the action. The action is set a little bit high on this bass, so I'm going to lower it just a little bit using our smaller Allen wrench, which is the one specific for this particular bridge. Let's do that now. Now with our truss rod adjusted, our neck tightened, and our action adjusted, there's one last step that you may have to perform. This isn't always the case, but you might want to adjust your pickup height. If you lowered your action a bit, you might want to adjust your pickup height because you may have a difference in output otherwise. But if you didn't really make that drastic of an adjustment to your action, you can leave your pickups where they are. And with that, our 5-minute setup is now complete. Now I know this video is a little longer than 5 minutes, but I was explaining all the steps and we were talking, we were hanging out. So that's what the setup process is though. So if you can get into the habit of performing that when you're restringing an instrument, tightening the neck joint, adjusting the truss rod accordingly, and adjusting your action, your instruments will always play their best. And with that, here is our G&L L1000. And that is it. Let me know what you think about this video and if you found this setup guide helpful. And if you have anything you'd like to add, be sure to leave a comment down below. I always love the positive feedback that you all give. And as always, until we groove again,